Marriage is essentially a bunch of habits of what you do with each other and how you think about each other and what your heart is towards the other. How do we take a marriage that is on the brink of divorce sometimes and give them the structure and the habits and the accountability and the coaching and the tweak systems to get to a place of healing?
Welcome to the Grace Marriage Podcast. I'm Brad Rhodes.
And I'm Marilyn Rhodes. We're here to help you build a marriage that's stronger, more connected, and full of grace.
I'm Rick Dayton, joining Brad and Marilyn as we bring you weekly conversations designed to inspire and equip you to live intentionally in your marriage.
We'll share practical tips, powerful stories, and strategies to help you and your spouse grow closer and thrive together.
So whether you're just starting out or have been married for years, there's always room to grow. Let's do this together. This is the Grace Marriage Podcast.
This is Brad Rhodes and Marilyn Rhodes on the Grace Marriage Podcast.
Excited to be with you.
And we have a very special guest, a friend, somebody that's making a major difference in the marriage space. Real privileged to have Belah Rose on the podcast. Welcome, Belah.
Thank you so much, Brad and Marilyn. I really appreciate you.
Now, some of our listeners may be well aware of you and some may not. So if you could start out by just telling us kind of what's your ministry and what's your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, honored to be here, Brad. And I think there's so much alignment with what we do and with what you do. And before we get started, Marilyn, I just love your voice. It is so pretty. Oh. Would you just record some bedtime stories and I will it's just beautiful. So may I start there?
Oh.
Okay.
That's really sweet. That's really kind.
Absolutely. So again, very happy to have you. I think that's actually a good start to what we do at Delight Your Marriage. We focus on delighting a marriage, and the two of you are such a delight. So what we do is I have a podcast for about 11 years and done coaching and training alongside that. And so right now I do coaching with men separately and women separately. And we have these different programs that allow people to actually learn how to be married. And most of us did not have incredible role models as we were growing up. Most of us didn't have passionate, playful, fun, connected relationships of, yes, I want my marriage to turn out that way. And so we really are saying, well, marriage is essentially a bunch of habits of what you do with each other and how you think about each other and what your heart is towards the other. And how do we take a marriage that is on the brink of divorce sometimes and give them the structure and the habits and the accountability and the coaching and the tweak systems to get to a place of healing. And we're thrilled that now we're of the top 1% podcast worldwide, and we've got several books out there, and now we're launching into churches, as you know, Brad. So it's just been an amazing journey, and excited to talk more about the importance of intimacy, because that's where it all started, was my first book saying, this is so important, guys. We've got to get this as part of the core aspect of our marriages, allowing so much else to flow from it.
Well, what is your story? How did you get where you are today? What led you in? What was your story that led you into marriage ministry?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think so much of what we do has to do with a lot of our pain and our past. And that was certainly from my perspective. I grew up as a daughter of the king that loved Jesus and wanted to change the world for him, and was big into worship and prayer. And I don't know if you're familiar with Voice of the Martyrs, but it's a publication that's all about the persecuted church. And so I was subscribed to their magazine, and I get it, as a 12-year-old girl, just crying on the floor, praying for these countries and wanting to be a missionary in India, and growing up just grieving for the lost and the pain that folks go through to spread the gospel. And went to India as about 16-year-old and really changed my heart. So really wanting to change the world. And of course, marriage was something my heart desired. I wanted to marry a strong Christian man, and we pursue Jesus together and do all these wonderful things. And shockingly, without having great insight early on, we got married, but we're hurting each other and criticalness and strife and anger and frustration, and neither of us getting what God designed us to be filled in a marriage met. And so rather than being this power couple for Jesus, all of this energy and effort was just attacking each other. It was tragic. And I felt my spirit broken amidst me fasting and praying and standing on the word and crying out to God for help. And ultimately, just pain and pain and pain. So I ended up going against the Matthew 19 exception of divorce, being that there must be adultery. So there must be some level of sexual immorality. And I put forth divorce. And then I was so disappointed at God that I went away from him for a season, just decided that okay, it doesn't work. This isn't what you said it was going to be. And I decided to do all of it my own way. I decided to do sex my own way. I decided to, sex isn't special. Obviously, I saved it for marriage. It wasn't important, and found out that it is actually spiritual and does actually hurt after time of doing it the wrong way. Then enter God's gift to me is Darrow, who is my now husband. But what happened was this man treated me well, and he is the kindest man I've ever met. And God healed my heart through this man. And we came back to Jesus, him for the first time, and got plugged into an amazing church that loved us well. And then still, I still had this passion and desire to change the world, but just couldn't figure out where the funnel was. Where was it? So I was in nonprofit management for a while, wanted to be a lawyer for a while, wanted to go to for-profit. I worked in giant companies. And ultimately, when I had my first son, I was cleaning houses because that was the easiest kind of, lots of reasons, but it was a great, great time. And I was listening to a podcast. I was listening to lots of podcasts at that time and books, and just, it was really cool. One of the podcasts said, pick your career not based on the money, not based on what people want you to do, maybe not even your passion, but ask the question, what is the work that needs to be done? What is the work that needs to be done? And for me, the blaring foghorn yelling was intimacy in marriage. It's not happening. I see these broken homes over and over and over again. And a marriage can heal or harm someone the most. That's my story. That's what I lived. And here I am, passionate for Jesus, wanting to change the world for him. But because my marriage was so broken, because I didn't know how to love him well, and in response, he didn't know how to love me well. And so we were so ineffective for the kingdom and instead harmed each other. And so the reason intimacy became such a huge focus for me in my work was because nobody taught me that. I had to go to the world to figure it out. What a terrible, terrible thing. You should never have to go to the ick and the gross and the darkness to be able to learn how to do holy, good Song of Solomon's. Like, it's biblical stuff, but we don't understand it because we're not being taught it well and with prudence and with grace. And so I wrote my first book, Delight Your Husband, which is very practical, but also very spiritual. The whole 2/3 of the book is about, where is your heart in all of this stuff? What's the history that's causing all these blocks towards intimacy? And then the last part is the most humiliating thing I thought ever possible, and how, okay, let's break it down practical by practical. So from there, after a lot of crickets, after self-publishing the book, I realized I need a marketing strategy. That's where the podcast started. Let's get some stories of really successful marriages out there. So I interviewed a bunch of ladies that were married 30 plus years and talked about the role of intimacy in that, and just trying to get stories out there. There are good role models. And then slowly that developed into coaching. And then men kept reaching out to me to see, okay, well, how do I get my wife to get into your material? Like, I have no idea. I don't know. Just do that, figure that out. I'm just going to talk to ladies. But they kept reaching out. And then eventually, through a lot of prayer and talking to my husband and talking to spiritual mentors in my life, I felt the green light to try out a pilot program for men, coaching men. And first pilot program, 4 gentlemen, they signed up right away, and every single one of them got incredible results, even though their wife wasn't aware they were doing the program. And from there, it's just continued to tweak and update. And it's been amazing to see God heal marriages, even when only one does the work.
Mm. So what kinds of things do you share with them or help them understand that they can do to help their marriage individually? Because you're right. If one person has the right heart and starts making efforts to move towards their spouse, I think it impacts the whole marriage, like you're saying. But
Exactly.
what are some things that you're encouraging?
Hmm. Yeah, I think similar to what you just said, it's the heart that's so vital, and it's heart and habits, because it just like Jesus says, if you love me, feed my sheep. If you love me, obey my commands. We actually have to do something as part of our heart. But also Jesus says they honor me with their lips, but they dishonor me with their heart. Their heart is far from me. So it is both. And what I find, the very first step, men or women, it has to be forgiveness. It absolutely has to start with forgiveness, because people are bringing a truckload of past and pain and missed expectations and hurts and proactive pain, things that have harmed them over the years. And so if you don't start with forgiveness, then you're just holding on to this resentment for many, many years, built up, built up, built up. And the Bible is very clear. If you don't forgive others, you yourself won't be forgiven. And if my highest human assignment, my husband, I can't forgive him, I mean, that's pretty significant.
Mhm.
And yet we don't see it that way, that the minute you open your door and cross the threshold and enter your house, that is who you are. You're not just that person outside in the professional or in front of people or in front of your neighbors or stuff. But when you walk in that door and you enter that home and you see your spouse, who you are with them is who you are.
Mhm.
I think that helps us to say, oh my gosh, my heart is so hard towards my spouse. How do I fix that? So forgiveness is definitely number one.
That's good.
Yeah, and what else? Like, where do you go? So, like, you're talking about, one, speak of the importance of intimacy, and then two, start talking a bit of the practical side that actually makes it beautiful. Because there's no pain like marriage pain,
Mhm.
and there's no joy like marriage joy. I mean, people have experienced marriage pain, experience pain that is, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I see it all the time. But people that experience marriage correctly, wow, it is that oasis in the desert. So, one, talk about the importance, and two, talk about first steps on change.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I would say the importance is that it's like before intimacy in your marriage, right? It's so easy to be annoyed with each other, frustrated, etc. And then the hour after intimacy, all of a sudden you just put on the rose-colored glasses. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
he can do no wrong. He's just wonderful. She's amazing. She's beautiful. He's so awesome. And it really it's a reconnect. It's a reconnection every single time. And so when a marriage is lacking intimacy based on, again, painful past
Mhm.
history, whatever, it it is a block to that connection, that intimacy that should be there emotionally. And so what a lot of times happens is, for men, they feel emotionally close when intimacy is consistent. And a lot of times for women, they need emotional closeness before they have any interest in intimacy. And isn't that the way we actually have to die to ourselves to figure out, okay, how do I love the other well? And so, in terms of, we have a really specific framework that we teach. So, we call it the Delight Your Marriage framework. And really, how do you feel fulfilled in your marriage? Men and women are so different. I mean,
Mhm.
everything about men and women are different. The way they look, the way they sound, obviously, every physical attribute. Why would we think emotionally and mentally they're the same? And if you actually talk to um, brain scientists, the male brain is very different than the female brain. Dr. Amen has a book specifically on the differences in the female brain. And it's very different. And so as Christians, we have to realize, why am I expecting my spouse to be exactly like me emotionally and how they feel loved? And so the structure we talk about is men needing respect, and that's very biblical. Admired, where he wants that cheerleader, right? And in respect, I'll just kind of share a little bit what each of these things are. Respect, what I didn't know, and what I say often is, if I knew what I know now in my first marriage, it could have healed. It could have changed. We could have gotten to a better space. It would have been a healing journey, but I believe we would have been happy. I just didn't know these things. And
Mhm.
so I heard respect back then. I had no idea what that was. Yes, reaming him out about some bad thing he did was respectful because I was helping him become better, right? Right? That's pretty effective. That always helps. No, it's not. So respect is, I had to see, was that's not criticizing him, not
Mhm.
controlling him, not telling him what to do, not right after we get out of an engagement saying, oh, well, you should have done this and this. And why would you say that? And gosh, you're not a spiritual leader. And why don't you pray with us? And everything, picking him apart. So I thought that was fine, except that was exactly disrespect.
Right.
So
We can even say I'm being his helpmate. I need to do these things to be his helpmate. Don't you hear that said too? We can justify when it's
yeah,
not helpful. It does the opposite. So yeah,
that's right.
really good
Yeah, it
stuff.
just tears him down, makes him feel not good enough. Like he has nothing to offer. He's worthless. Absolutely. And then admired, where it's not, a husband wants to be that quarterback and his wife is the cheerleader. I mean,
Mhm.
that's what we almost naturally did at first as you were dating. Is a husband is just can't do any wrong and she's just, he's wonderful in all these ways. And then we get to marriage and we're like, I need to fix this guy. It is time. And then finally wholehearted intimacy. And that was the issue for me, and is issue that I see so often, is that it's not just sex. It is a physical aspect, but it's actually the heart piece. Does she want to be there? Is there engagement? Is there desire? Is there pleasure? Is there pursuing? Are there visuals? Is it variety? All these aspects are, is this a full connected life, or is it like this happens at a certain day, a certain time, and it is completely separate from the rest of our life? And it's really just so he doesn't starve or he's not frustrated or angry later. And so it's really, is it wholehearted? Is it a desire? Is it pursued? And for a lot of ladies, most ladies, the vast majority of ladies, this is an act of the will first, is an act of understanding the wisdom that God has given us in the gift of intimacy. And when that is a commitment of, this is wisdom, and so I'm going to pursue it. I'm going to find joy in it. I'm going to find the delight. I'm going to learn about this topic to pursue it with joy, and then get to a place where wholehearted is not hard. It's not like pie in the sky. It takes steps, but eventually getting there um, is ultimately filling and delighting your husband. So yeah, so for the ladies, and this is specifically for the men, that it's so it's so simple to say, but it's so hard to live out. For each of those items that I just described,
Mhm.
those are hard for me very frequently. There's so many times I have to hold my tongue and not tell him what to do, right? That's all of
Mhm.
us. This thing called marriage makes us more like Jesus if we do it right. We have to work at it. So for men, the same way. How do you love your wife? The way she receives love. Well, first one is safe, emotionally safe, not just physically safe. Hopefully, Lord willing, of course, that's there, but emotionally safe, where she feels she can let her guard down. She can just be herself. That he's not judging her, he's not pressuring her, he's not pushing her, he's not trying to get her to change, trying to get her to be different. If you were just these ways, then he would be happy. But instead, he really likes her and he likes to listen to her and he wants to know about her heart. So it's this aspect of safety that also is his character. Is he a man of the fruits of the Spirit, of love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self control? these aspects of character that will allow her to be safe. Also, leadership allows her to be safe. Are you the one that's thinking through, okay, we're about to arrive at this place. The kids aren't going to know what to do. I'm going to have to share with them, hey guys, you're allowed to do this, this, and this. We're going to be over here. Everyone got the game plan. Like, that's being a leader. That's allowing her to feel safe. Because if a husband doesn't do that, then who's the leader? Well, by default, she has to be, because he's not jumping in and leading first. And so that safety is what she wants and craves and desires. And then the second thing is known. Who she is at her core, that he knows her, that he cares about her. He says, I know her likes and dislikes, her passions, what she hates. And he does little things that make it clear that he's not just married to anyone. It's not that he just likes her for her looks or her assets, as they say, but he likes her for who she is, and specifically the nuances of who she is, that he feels so lucky to be with her. And I say the word lucky as uniquely privileged. He feels uniquely privileged to be with her. And that's what we want. There was years ago, you might remember the book called Captivating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that was just this idea of really a little girl's heart. She wants his eyes. She wants to be that ballerina that he just delights in. And so finally is wholeheartedly cherished. And so again, it's that wholehearted. So that might be the romance or the little surprises and the compliments and the aspects of, I cherish her. I want her to feel like she matters, and she does matter. And it's wholehearted. He doesn't just show up for the date and say, okay, go ahead, eat, we're here. Instead, he's like, how do I make this a really engaging experience together?
It's so good. And you can tell when people dig you, and you can tell when people like you. And those are the people you want to be around. You just can. I mean, it's like, who do you want to be around? Whoever likes you the most. And, in marriage,
I
it's
love it.
true. But like in marriage, it's like, if you can tell somebody really likes you, cherishes you, adores you, thinks you are it, it's not that hard to want to be close and want to be around them.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't work both ways. The more you're around them, the more you talk to them, the more you find yourself digging them. So it's kind of like cool because it creates a synergy.
Early on, I had a lady that mentored me that was so helpful, because Brad was teaching Sunday school, couples class, and after class, I would just launch into input.
I hated after class. After class is when I got my own class. I would teach and be taught. That's kind of the way it worked.
but I was frustrated that I didn't feel like he wanted my input, and then it felt uncomfortable when he had the discussions. And the woman that mentored me said, Marilyn, before anything else, he's got to know you're his biggest fan. If he knows you're his biggest fan, then he's going to be able to hear your thoughts. He's going to want to hear your thoughts, but you just can't lead with constructive criticism. They've got to know in their core. And that was such good advice. And I'll go back to that and think, okay, I don't think he's feeling like I'm his biggest fan right now. I've got some hard work to do here. So he feels that and knows that before I ever share, because of course there are times we're going to share input with each other. But if, like you were saying earlier, the heart is so important in that.
Yeah, I would dread
knowing it.
We get in the car, going to be silent for about 60 seconds. And I'm thinking, okay, she's trying to figure out how to say it. But we are so grateful, Belah, that you're on the podcast, and we're gonna have another episode. And we're so grateful that you're going to do part 2 for us. But I wish we could do like part 3 through 10, because you have so much to offer. And why don't you tell our listener how do they find your resources? Because people listening can tell how helpful what God's given you is. So if you could please tell our listeners how they find your resources.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So delightyourmarriage.com is the best place to go. We have a podcast, and again, we're launching into churches, our trainings, but also coaching. I just love coaching folks on their specific situations. And we have a free clarity call option there at delightyourmarriage.com.
Well, and I can tell you, I know folks that have been listening to you, and your marriage will be better. Your intimacy will be better, and you'll be glad you connected with Belah and Delight Your Marriage. So thanks for being on the podcast. We look forward to having you back. Thank you for joining us on the Grace Marriage Podcast. We really hope you're feeling inspired to take intentional steps to grow in your marriage.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us spread the message of grace and reach even more couples.
And if you have a moment, please leave us a review. Your feedback means a lot to us and helps others discover the podcast.
To learn more about how you can grow in your marriage, visit us at gracemarriage.com. Keep building stronger, grace-filled marriages.
We'll see you next week on the Grace Marriage Podcast. Until then, keep growing in grace.